Hey you guys, and welcome back to session 10 of the T Spot. Wow, 10 sessions in. That's crazy that I kept being consistent with this. Honestly, period. Round of applause to me because, I struggled with wanting to keep doing this because of a lot of, I didn't feel encouraged to do it anymore. But you gotta keep pushing through with a lot of things that you do in life and things that you want to pursue. So, um, and we're already at session 10. That is crazy. But let's just get into this session. I want to know some more feedback on how you guys liked last session. It wasn't really different. It was just me wanting to show where I've come from within my style, and I feel like it was a pretty cool session. I think it did really good. I did get a lot, not a lot, but more feedback than I usually do, and I really thank you guys every single day for giving me that feedback. It does encourage me to want to keep going and keep filming for you guys and just making content. I also put a little poll on my Instagram to see if you guys want to see me do more interviews, and a lot of you guys did say yes. So let me know in the comments here or even DM me on Instagram of who you want to see me interview. And literally, it can be anyone. And what should we even talk about? Like, even if you feel like you have good things to talk about on the podcast, let me know and I will literally try and get you on an interview because I kind of want to do more interviews too because it's hard just to talk about all my experiences. I want to get a better feeling of other people's experiences too and how they go through things or how they went through things or how they got through things. So, yeah, let me know who you guys want to see me interview in the future. See if I can make it happen. So, we're going to actually get into this session. I took a little bit of a different route with this session because, um, personally, I've been going through a lot and it takes a lot to admit to that. This session is going to be a little bit more on the serious level. I feel like I always say that, but I always find a way to joke about things, because that's just me. But I'm gonna try to really have it on a more serious level. Mentally, I've always gone through a lot, um, and I've tried so many ways to cope with a lot of my mental health. And that's really what I'm going to be discussing. And a lot of you guys actually shared some ways you guys cope, and I'll be sharing those too. So, thank you guys once again for the feedback. And let's just start this session titled, How Do You Cope? I'm kind of just going to not really go into order, but just talk about some ways that I found myself coping with through my mental health and a lot of the anxiety that I do go through. And yeah, I'll tell you guys my experience and how I really got through that and if I would want to try this coping mechanism again. So, first I want to start off with therapy. Um One of my worst anxiety attacks, one of my worst episodes resulted in my mom feeling like um therapy was the only option for me. And I've never really talked about this with anyone, but I've matured enough and I feel comfortable enough to talk about it with you guys and on camera. It was my sophomore year, the beginning of my sophomore year, and I was trying to get into praying and talking to God a lot more. And I was just in this patch of my life where I didn't really want to be here anymore. And it sucked, but I felt like everything takes time and I was being impatient. I would be honest. I feel like God was not listening and understanding what I truly was going through, and I couldn't even put into words what I was feeling or what I was going through. So I cried and I cried and I asked God to take this pain away, um, before it resulted in something a lot more serious. And I felt myself getting a lot of shortness of breath, and I called my mom. It was really late at night, and I just asked her to come in my room because I knew that would be selfish of me to do something like that, and I really just wanted to get help at that point, and I didn't know why I was feeling this way, but I wanted to know how. So I started going to therapy. This was probably one of the worst times of my life because, like I said, I couldn't really put into words of what I was feeling, what I was going through. Um, but therapy really did start to turn things around. Um, Growing up, I think I said this on my other one of my other episodes, but I didn't really know my dad at all actually because he had been in and out of prison since I was born. So I really did not know my dad, and I would be very confused with like my family situation because I knew I had a stepdad, but I knew I had a dad as well, and I wanted to kind of build that connection. And he would always sometimes call me and say that he's trying to do better and he's going to get out, he's going to try and build a relationship, and I believed that, but it never happened. So I a lot of like the trust issues I had, my therapist was feeling like this really resulted from the fact that my biological dad was not in my life. I would say that therapy actually taught me how to communicate my emotions a lot better. I was not very good at that. I used to fidget a lot when I was expressing myself because I always felt like I was going to get in trouble for saying how I felt. So I fidgeted a lot when I was younger. I haven't really played with my fingers or whatever and fidgeted in a while, which is good. Since I went to therapy, I do it every now and then, but I mean, I have anxiety, so that is why I do it. But I do feel like therapy helped me communicate my feelings a lot more and start understanding what some of the problems with a lot of my trust issues were. I don't want to say that it all stemmed from my biological dad, but a lot of it did. But eventually, I had been in therapy for a year at this point, and I just felt like my therapist wasn't really understanding me. She was a white woman, and I'm black, so I just feel like she couldn't really understand me on the level that I wanted her to. Like I said, I feel like she did teach me a lot about communicating my emotions and feelings and not being scared to stand up for myself and other things, but I did not really feel like she could connect with me and truly understand me because at this rate, everything stemmed from my dad. She didn't really want to get to the deeper meaning of why I have these feelings, have these emotions. She just blamed it all on my biological dad. So at that point, I felt like therapy probably wasn't for me just at the moment. I would rate it like a 7 out of 10 because I feel like I learned a lot about myself and I've gotten better slightly with my mental health. And I would love to go back, but I would want to go to a black therapist, because a black female therapist, just to get another perspective on everything that I've gone through and see what they would have to say about it. The next coping mechanism I tried when it came to struggling with how bad my mental health was getting, I did try talking to God, like I said earlier, but I wanted to get a lot more serious. This time in my life, I was trying a lot of things to cope with my mental health. Um, and I felt like this specific thing, getting closer to God and becoming more religious, was something that helped me a lot. And I definitely want to get back into it. I'm trying to do that right now, actually. But I will say, um, it's very hard to be committed to anything, and it's very hard to stay consistent. And I don't want to put this in a disrespectful sense. I do not want to do that at all, but it was very hard for me to stay committed to um really becoming a Christian. It's very hard for me to learn more about Jesus and just really get into my word. It was very hard to stay committed. And I hate that for me. I really do, because I know that above all people that he can help me with a lot of my issues. But it was very hard for me to stay on that course. And this is why I kind of struggled with my mental health, because this was a point in my life when I really realized that I liked girls. And I didn't even think God accepted me. So me taking the time to try and, learn more about him and love him and allow him to talk to me and help me get through what I was going through. I didn't really think that he wanted to because of my sexuality. Now I know this is true. This isn't completely true because God loves all, but it was very hard for me to put it past me because I put in a lot of work. I would do I would get into my word a lot and write a lot. I guess you could say I was doing Bible studies, but by myself because I was still fresh learning. And um, I was very committed at one point, but I couldn't stay committed because I was kind of confused if he really even wanted to take time to be committed to me, if that makes sense. So this was hard for me to stay consistent with, and I did fall off around this time. But I will say it helped me throughout my entire state of being sad and just having really bad mental health. It helped me. These are actually all of the sticky notes of a lot of verses that I just felt like would stick to me, and I just take them everywhere because it reminds me that I know I could go back easily and really get into my word, and that's what I'm trying to do now. A lot of these are from Proverbs because Proverbs is one of my favorites. I feel like I can understand it a lot easily, and that's also something that I struggle with was understanding the Bible, but I'm taking the time to really get down, to the real roots and understanding the Bible. So that is something that I also did to help cope with my mental health as well. The next thing I tried to do, which is actually very new, is journaling. Journaling to me is very therapeutic, and I feel like it helps me calm my mind down. Journaling is something that I do when I'm having spurts because I do have a lot of those. I'm a very emotional person, and I start to think really. I like to think a lot. I think a lot, and I overthink. And I'm always thinking the worst is happening. So I write everything in my journal, how I'm feeling. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I write everything. And then I go back and read it, and then I realize, okay, you might have been tweaking a little bit. But this is a great way to reflect on my actions, and it helps me a lot. I don't journal every day, but I like to try and journal as much as I can, because it helps me personally, and it doesn't feel like I'm being judged for feeling a way or thinking something or believing in anything. It makes me feel I'm like I'm talking to myself, and I'm not going to judge myself. So it just allows me to get a lot of things off my mind without being judged for it. I usually just put the date at the top and just write and talk about. I write when I'm happy, I write when I'm sad, I write when I'm confused. I just write. And I have a lot of journals. Like I have one right here that I do for podcast planning, and this one is just for journaling about myself, and I find it to be very helpful. It's one of the it's a little bit new to me, like I said, but it's one of the coping mechanisms that I will always use and that I actually can really stay consistent with because you don't have to journal every day. But I feel like once you get a lot of those feelings out, it allows you to stay on a schedule where you feel like when I'm feeling this way, when I'm feeling down, or when I feel like nobody understands, write, journal for however long you feel like you can. And that's exactly what I do. And I find it to be very helpful with my mental health and, staying positive and stuff. Another coping mechanism I tried to do was working out, and I need to get back into this because I started working out consistently for about 2 months, which I know isn't a long time, but for me, like, aside from playing basketball, I was strictly in the gym, getting my body right, conditioning, lifting, all that. That's big for me. Like 2 months is big for me. And I went every day before school. I would go on a run after school. I was just very consistent. And the reason I started working out is because it was one of my first heartbreaks, and I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I was unhappy with the way that I looked. And that sounds terrible, but once I started working out, I realized that I wanted to do this for me. I didn't really want to do it for them. I wanted to get my body right for myself. And, your mind is so blank when you're at the gym. You're not thinking about anything. You just play your music and you want to do this workout because you know that it'll benefit you in the end. And that was my really end goal with anytime I got in the gym, anytime I worked out, it allowed me to have a blank mind and not think about what I was going through in real life, which sounds kind of sad and like up, but it is a great way to cope. This is a great way to cope. Now, I wasn't very excessive in the gym. Like, I was not obsessed with the gym at all. But when I did go, I didn't let anything get in the way of my workout or what I was doing. When I go on runs, running is something that I actually like. Okay, a lot of people listening to this who know me, I don't like to run when I'm being told to run. Like, why are you telling me to go run a mile? But I will run on my own time, like around my neighborhood, because I can run at my own pace. I'm not being timed to run. It's not a conditioning test. It's just me running with music on. And that also helps me because I don't know. It just helps me clear my thoughts. And, working out, running just was a very good coping mechanism for me. And I would love to go back because mentally I was in a great space because I felt like I was healthy and I felt like I was doing something for myself and not for other people. And that's where I always find myself having spurts of, depression, because I'm always putting other people first. So when I work out and when I go on runs, I'm putting myself first. At the end of the day, I'm trying to do better for myself. So that is another coping mechanism that I have tried and that I felt really helped me. The last coping mechanism that I did try and that is very very new to me is coloring. I've always wanted to be good at coloring because I am terrible at coloring, but I used to draw a lot when I was younger. But coloring is you have to be so precise when you color. And I feel like when I'm coloring, I'm not thinking about anything else but keeping these colors. I'm trying to think about staying in between the lines, and my mind is blank. Once again, just like really anything else, I'm not thinking about what I'm going through. I'm just thinking about the pretty colors on the page and the picture that I'm trying to make out. I feel like color therapy is kind of underrated because not a lot of people do it, but it really soothes and calms the mind. Like I said, it's very therapeutic to me, and it allowed me to feel stress free and not have any cares in the world. This is like, it's not a big, it's not something that I do every day. In fact, this is very hard to be consistent with coloring as well because you're obviously, if it's an adult coloring book, you're obviously not going to finish it in one day unless you have a lot of free time. So obviously I have class and stuff, but I try to color when I am feeling sad because it makes me feel happy, because all I'm seeing is happy things. I like to get happy coloring books too, like, and just fun ones. Like right now I'm working on a Wizards and Goblins coloring book, and it removes all negativity. I don't know. You guys let me know if you've ever tried like color therapy, and if you feel like it helps you guys like mentally if you're ever going through a really bad patch in your life. I really wanted to do this session over mental health, not only because I'm struggling to kind of figure out what works best for me, but also because I feel like this isn't something that we should be taking lightly. I feel like we should all really, try to take care of ourselves. It's key to take care of yourself before you can even think about trying to take care of anyone else. You have to make sure you're straight and your mind is on the right track, and that's really what I'm trying to do right now. And I just kind of want to spread some of that to you guys and just give some of my experiences of how I went through a lot of things mentally and what I did to cope. Yeah, I really take my mental health very seriously, and I feel like personally I've been lacking on trying to be um, mentally stable, and I want to get back to that. So I'm glad I focused my session on that because, I mean, yes, people preach mental health, but nobody can really ever like tell you what they really do to help them feel great. And I mean, like, good things that can help you get back to feeling like yourself, like talking to God, journaling, all that. These are like positive things that I feel like have impacted my mental health in a good way. So yeah, I'm going to share some things that you guys actually said helped y'all cope with your mental health. The first one is hooping and watching comfort shows. When I did play basketball, I did like to go get shots up to help with like what I'm going through mentally. Like I said, it just clears your mind when you're like working out or anything. Watching comfort shows. Well, you know who this is. Let me know what shows you watch. Like I might even try watching them. The only comfort show I have is Grey's Anatomy, and it does usually help me feel better because I'm so invested in the show that I have nothing else to think about but the show. Someone else said coloring, one of the coloring books from Barnes and Nobles. Yes, like I said, I've really learned to love coloring. It really helps, and yeah, like I always feel like in a good space when I'm coloring. Next one is I do Bible studies every day to help me calm my mind. I'm really like, first of all, I applaud you for being so consistent with it. And I really want to get back into it because I feel like it does calm your mind and it does help you get through things because you know that God is listening, you know? So that's a good one. Someone else said music, but absolutely no sad music. And I feel like this is a good way to cope because why would you want to listen to sad music if you're already sad? It's just going to make you even more upset mentally. So that's a good way. I like to listen to a lot of upbeat music. It gets me out of bad moods all the time. So that's a good one too. Retail therapy and journaling. Okay, retail therapy. I'm having a stupid moment right now. Oh, same. Sorry, I literally had to look it up. But girl, yes, shopping, any of that. I love to break the bank. I love to buy stuff. So whether that be thrifting or just going to any store to get something, that definitely does make me happy. But yes, journaling is a really good one. It is one that I feel like has helped me recently a lot. I feel great after I journal. I feel like a big weight is off of my shoulders, you know? Someone else said online shopping. Yes. Online shopping. Well, I like to go in person because if I go online shopping, I will literally break the bank. I will spend everything, including everything in my savings. So I try to kind of stay away from online shopping. But if it helps you, then, you know, keep doing it. I usually write in a journal what I'm feeling. Yes, this is definitely one of the best ways to cope. I feel like if you never tried journaling, you definitely should because it helps. It really does. And you don't know until you actually physically do it, and then you can read it all back to yourself. And it just feels really good to get all that out of your mind, you know? This one says reading my word and talking to God for real, then being around people I can laugh with. Heavy on the second one. I love being around people that just make me not feel sad. Like they can always put a smile on my face. It's not hard to put a smile on my face because I'm always smiling, but just being around people that make you feel comfortable and reading my word and then talking to God. Like I said, the more you guys keep like bringing it up, the more I just want to keep pushing to, you know, go back to it. So I think that's just an extra push for me to keep going. And someone else on my other account said gospel music, which I actually love gospel music. I don't know, it's a lot of gospel music isn't really sad to me. It's always really upbeat and it just allows you to keep pushing through. So I feel like that's a really good way to cope with mental health. But that's just basically the end of this session. I hope that you guys took a lot out of it and, you know, maybe take some advice from me or even other people on how they get through a lot of their really bad mental outbreaks. So, yes, that's the end of session 10, and I'll see you guys next week.